Have you ever looked at your teenager and just wondered, who is this person and what have they done with my sweet kid? One day they're your affectionate little buddy, and then seemingly overnight, they're this moody, impulsive stranger who disagrees with every single thing you say. If any of that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're cracking open the user's guide to the teenage brain. Let's get into it.
Man, this quote just hits home for so many parents, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling of whiplash. You're confused, you're probably a little hurt, and you're definitely worried. You start asking yourself, wait, did I do something wrong here? Well, the good news is you're not alone. And there are very real scientific reasons for this incredible transformation.
So this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? This is the one that keeps parents up at night. Why does it feel like it happens overnight? Why is the change so intense? Is it something you did? Is it just a phase they'll grow out of? Well, the answer is deep inside their head. It's in a place that's going through the most chaotic, intense construction project of their entire life.
To really get what's going on, I want you to picture your teen's brain as this super powerful computer, okay? Through childhood, the hardware was pretty stable, but now adolescence hits, and it's getting a massive, messy hardware upgrade. And here's the wild part. It's not a quiet update that happens while they're asleep. Nope, it's happening live, while the computer is still running. Wires are getting crossed, parts are being swapped out. It is total chaos under the hood.
This slide, right here, boils that whole chaotic mess down into one really simple, powerful idea. Think of your teen's brain as a high-performance race car. During this upgrade, two things are happening at the same time. The emotional engine, the gas pedal, gets supercharged. We're talking a V12 Ferrari engine. But the part responsible for logic and control, the brake system, is still basically a pair of rusty old bicycle brakes. A Ferrari engine with bicycle brakes. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Let's look a little closer at that gas pedal. The part of the brain that handles emotions and rewards, the limbic system, is just getting flooded with hormones. This means that craving for rewards, for stimulation, it goes through the roof. And that's why they can play video games for 10 hours straight or get lost on social media all night. That dopamine hit is just incredibly powerful. Their emotions are amplified, so a tiny disagreement feels like a world-ending disaster. And, for the first time in their lives, the approval of their friends becomes more neurologically rewarding than the approval of their own parents. So with that gas pedal totally floored, what about the brakes? Well, they're pretty much offline for maintenance. The prefrontal cortex, that's the brain's CEO, right? It's in charge of planning, impulse control, rational thinking. It's the very last part of the brain to get fully remodeled. This is why your teen might know, logically, they should be studying, but they just can't pull themselves away from their phone. The impulse is too strong, and the control center is just too weak. It's why they do risky things without really thinking through the consequences, and why those floods of emotion are so hard for them to manage. So you're probably asking, okay, when is this construction project finally over? When do the real brakes get installed in that Ferrari? The answer, it might actually shock you. The prefrontal cortex, that super important center for logic and control, doesn't fully mature until around age 25. Yeah, you heard me, 25. They can vote, they can join the military, they can be a legal adult long before their brain has finished building the hardware for actual adult-level decision-making. And this brings us to what might be the single most important mindset shift from all of brain science. When your teen is being impulsive or emotional or defiant, it is so crucial to remember this. Their behavior isn't a personal attack. They are not giving you a hard time on purpose. They are having a hard time, trying to navigate the world with a brain that's literally a war with itself. A brain with a monster engine and no brakes. This is not an issue of character. It's a challenge of development. Okay, so we've talked about the chaotic hardware upgrade, but what about the software? What's the new program that's running on this unstable system that's making everything even more interesting? Well, it's the biggest software update of their entire lives. It's the program for discovering their own identity. Psychologically, a teenager has one single core mission that pretty much overrides everything else: to figure out who they are, not as your son or your daughter, but as their own individual person. This whole process is called identity formation, and it's the central driving force behind almost all of their confusing behavior. They're moving away from an identity that was defined by you to an identity that's discovered by them. Now, this huge mission, it can really be broken down into two major jobs. First up, psychological weaning. They have to mentally and emotionally separate from you to even begin to have their own sense of self. And then second, self-exploration. Once they've kind of created that space, they have to start trying things on for size to figure out what actually defines them. And both of these jobs, just by their very nature, are going to create some friction with you.
I want you to really let this quote sink in for a second. That process of them pushing you away, of arguing with you, of creating distance, man, it can feel like a betrayal. It hurts. But it's not personal. It's actually necessary. Think of your kid as a rocket and you as the launch pad. To get where it needs to go, that rocket has to powerfully push away from the very thing that supported it. It's a fundamental law of physics and of growing up. So what about that second job, the self-exploration part? This is where the whole fitting room idea comes in handy. Why did they suddenly dye their hair green? Why are they now obsessed with a new kind of music that you just can't stand? Why do their friends seem to change every 6 months? It's because they're in life's fitting room. They're just trying on different styles, different personalities, different beliefs to see what fits. Some of it's going to be a terrible match and they'll toss it aside pretty quick. But it's the only way they can find an identity that feels real and authentic to them.
Okay, we've looked at the chaotic hardware, we've looked at the identity-seeking software, so now we get to the most important question. What do we do about all this? Knowing this stuff means we pretty much have to throw out the old parenting manual. Our role has to change fundamentally. We need to shift from being a cop or a firefighter to being something totally different and way more effective. This slide right here lays out the entire playbook shift. See, the old roles just don't work with a teenager. Trying to be the police, constantly controlling every move, that just invites more rebellion. Acting like a firefighter, always rushing in to solve every problem, well, that stops them from learning. And trying to be the driver, grabbing the steering wheel of their life, that's just a recipe for a crash. Your new roles are the guardrail, the gas station, and the navigator. So let's break that down. As the guardrail, your job is to set the hard limits around safety, the big stuff that could cause them permanent harm. You're not controlling their speed, but you are making sure they don't drive off a cliff. As the gas station, you are their safe harbor. No matter how lost they get, no matter how many mistakes they make, they need to know they can always come back to you for unconditional love and support to refuel. And finally, as the navigator, you sit in the passenger seat. You don't grab the wheel, but you offer maps, you suggest routes, you point out dangers up ahead, using your wisdom to help guide them on their journey.
So let's bring this all home. Just remember, they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. They're a Ferrari with bicycle brakes on a wild journey to find themselves. And just understanding that can shift your whole perspective from frustration to empathy. So I want to leave you with this question. After seeing the science behind it all, how has your view of one specific teen behavior changed? Share an example in the comments below. I would genuinely love to read your reflections. And of course, if you found this explainer helpful, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives just like this one.